Welcome to my fall season of crafting. To start things off, I present this compilation of my 5 favorite crafts from last year, 2022. They are presented with the original voiceover and project numbers, but I created a new cute musical intro for each one to help you keep track of the countdown. And if you watch till the very end, there's some bonus inspiration pics. Thanks for watching. Okay, so project number 1 is the Hello Fall Words mini wreath. And here's some of the supplies I use, and not shown is the traditional fall color leaves. So I just like to set everything out and see how everything goes together, make sure sizes and colors don't clash or anything like that. So this was kind of a fun part of the project, is just sitting there for a few minutes making all the little curly cues for the pumpkins. I decided that they needed a little more character. After I was done with that, I grabbed some of those traditional fall colored leaves. No purples or blues or anything this time, just orange, red, and yellow. I had originally painted the words a celery with a brown distress, but I didn't like it at all. It was very muddy looking, so I went back in and it's like a fall yellow color that I painted it. I dry fitted the leaves after that, and then when I was happy how it looked, I went ahead and glued them in, trying to keep the glue to the stems. Just, if I wanted to redo it or rearrange it, but also just, for looks. Once I got the part of the wreath covered that I wanted to, I glued a couple little leaves on the edges of the little sign that the words are going to go on. And that sign is just some corkboard cut to size. I got my words on there, and I thought I was happy with how it looked, and I went ahead and glued it. But I do fix it up off camera because it's on there a little bit crooked. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and put my little pumpkins on. And this project was kind of inspired by those little pumpkins because I bought a whole bunch of them. And I'm nearing the end of my fall projects. I still had a whole bunch of them. So we're going to use a few up here. And these are all burlap. I got some faux leather ones as well, but I stuck with just burlap for this project. And this is all just hot glue. This is like a hot glue project. Except for the end here, I'm going to put a little bit of wood glue just because I felt like cork on that wicker kind of wood. I might benefit from a little bit of wood glue. But then I finished it off with hot glue, so you would be just fine with hot glue. At the end, after I'm done with the glue, I do wrap the wreath in a little bit of Dollar Tree twine. It's not super noticeable, but I felt like I just felt like I don't know, like it was holding things on better and more of a wreath to have something wrapped around it. And of course it fits perfectly because we did our dry fit, and so we knew that it was going to be all right. And there you have it. I'm going to fix up the sign a little bit off camera, and I'll give you a better look at the final reveal. Okay, project number 2 is a Harvest Wishes sign. And I'm thinking like warm colors and traditional shapes while I'm making this. We're going to start with this coastal decor sign, and I just love the shape of it. I took the fish off the back, or I took the fish off the front, but the back is just so smooth and pretty that that's what I'm going to use. I'm pointing to the holes there because I'm not going to have to worry about them, because they will be covered first with glue and then with burlap. I could not decide a color for the background for the Harvest Wishes words, so I decided to use burlap because the fabric and the color just reminds me of, you know, cooler days, like late October breezes. I'm thinking back to my days growing up in Canada when I was thinking of this. So what I did, since I didn't have any Mod Podge, is wet my brush with water and use the wet brush to spread the glue. Now, Jackie from Blessed Beyond Measure actually mixes hers up ahead of time and uses Aileen's tacky glue and water. What I used here was just the regular school glue, Elmer's school glue, and the damp brush. And then I'm coming back and making sure all the edges are fixed or adhered. And once I'm happy that the glue is all the way to the edges, I'm going to set it aside to dry. And now it'll be time to do the words. So I put, you saw me putting tape on the back there, and that's where the holes are. And what I'm trying to do is get some paint to pool in that area so the holes won't be as noticeable, because I don't have anything to fill them up with. So this is a cool brush. It is not smooth. The bristles leave marks, but I like that. Like, it's a nice brush. It's just bristly, and I love the look it gives the color on this wood. And I don't think I show it, but I also do just the slightest distress of burnt umber on the edges after I'm all done. But for now here, I'm just, I think I did 2 coats, and then on the second coat, I filled in the leaf in the corner there. And then I have this acrylic paint, I think it's blood orange, and I just put a few drops in with my yellow there and moved it around, and I didn't mix it or anything. I just kind of left it together, because that's what fall leaves look like anyway. And I'm just slowly filling in the leaf, starting from the edges and the corners and working my way in. And that chalk paint, that yellow, is actually called mustard yellow. So you don't want like a bright spring yellow or something summery. This mustard yellow just has a really nice fall feel to it. After I get all the orange in the way I want it, I'm going to take a smaller brush with that burnt umber and draw some lines or veins in the leaf. And I'm holding a coaster that my mom made for me. It's like some kind of cross stitch on plastic canvas, and I liked the way the lines were in it, so I used that as a guide to do the lines on my sign. Okay, so I set everything down, took a break, came back when everything was good and dry, and trimmed the burlap. It wasn't like 100% straight, but that's okay because I wanted to pull on the edges and make some frays. So I used regular scissors, detail scissors for the little indentions on the corners there, and then just with my fingers pulled some frays. And that's just a fall thing to me. It reminds me of like scarves and jackets and things. So I'm just going to go ahead and put some wood glue on the wood words, because that's what we're all about in this video, right? We're doing our wood words. And I'm going to let that sit for a bit, actually, because I remembered I have to do the leaves before I put the wood down. And I'm actually doing the same with the leaves. I'm doing some wood glue first, and then I'll finish off with some hot glue and just press it down good on the 3 corners there. And of course, we're leaving the other corner bare because that's where the leaf is in our sign. So each leaf gets the same treatment. Then I go back to the words and get the hot glue in there. And as I'm eyeballing it, I decide to bring it down near the bottom a little bit because there's just like a perfect spot for a bow right there. And I made that bow using the awareness ribbon shape, scrunching it together and then tying it with some Dollar Tree jute twine. And that's pretty much it. We're going to do a hanging rope on the back here. I use knots to glue it down, and then I used some straps or strips of burlap to reinforce it. I'm going to flip it over in a second and show you what it looks like on the front, and then I will also give you a better look at it at the final reveal. Project number 1, Give Thanks Shelf Sitter. I'm going to start things off by faux staining the wood here. I'm using a combination of 2 different browns. I mix it together with a broken skewer. And I'm just going to use a wet wipe to apply it to all the nooks and crannies, front, side, and back. And I'll do the same with the cube, front, side, back, bottom, and a little bit on the inside. And that's just out of habit. You're not going to see the inside or the bottom. But that crafter in me just wants to make everything cohesive and finished. And even though it's not completely visible, you know, I know it's not finished. All right, so when I'm done faux staining here, I'm also going to use a wet wipe to put some celery colored chalk paint on the leaves. And the Canadian girl in me chose the maple leaf because I didn't have room for both. Maple leaf is, of course, my favorite leaf because I am from Canada and the maple leaf is on the Canadian flag. I just use my wet wipe to pat the paint onto the leaf, and it dries pretty fast when you do it this way. I'm going to use the same method when I put the color on the words, but I'll use the cottage white chalk paint on the words. And dabbing it on like this, I like the look, I like the finish, but it also dries a lot faster as well. And it just pops on that faux stain. It looks so good. I am so happy with how it came out. And then I like the color of the leaf. It's a natural color, the celery color, but it's not like in your face color as far as fall colors go. And there's nothing wrong with the beautiful reds and yellows. But this video is about using more muted and neutral colors. Once the paint dries, I'm going to go ahead and use wood glue and hot glue to adhere the words. And I just tapped out some wood glue onto paper towel there and used a stick to apply it to the words. And then for the leaf, I'm going to use that same Amherst wood glue. And I'm not going to bother with the hot glue on the leaf. I just used the wood glue because it's such a small amount. It'll dry nice and fast. And then here again, using the wood glue, hot glue combination on the cube. You'll also notice I put some floral foam in there. I filled it about half full. I don't usually fill my containers all the way with the foam, usually about halfway, 3/4. These are some florals that I chose that were a little muted, a little neutral. And I will use the greens first, but I slowed down the camera here so I could show you the packaging that those little pumpkins came in. And I have the orange pumpkins in my hand there. I'm not sure if you can see it. It's almost out of frame. And then some green and brown pumpkins on the in the left-hand corner there. And I'm going to make little floral picks out of those and add them to the arrangement in the cube. So the best way to do this is to squeeze the pumpkin, make the fabric taut, and then give the pointy end of the skewer a big push, and I kind of like wiggled it in there. If you wanted to pierce the bottom of the pumpkin with something before the skewer, that would probably make it a little bit easier, but I just used the sharp end of the skewer and pulled the fabric tight, and that worked for me. Don't use hay like I'm using here. You don't need to, and it just disintegrates. Like, it just falls apart, and I wanted to try it, and I tried it, and it's just a big old mess, and it's not necessary. So go ahead and leave that part out if you decide to do this. So I like putting the greens down first. These were eucalyptus buds and leaves that I got from Amazon, and it came together. And then once I had the base down, I got my florals in there, and you'll notice I have the little pumpkins in there as well. And this came out so cute. I'm going to give you a better look of it at the final reveal. Okay, so project number 3 is the slatted hanging pumpkin, and I'm apologizing now because this portion of the video is actually a series of screenshots. My footage got corrupted and I couldn't edit it, but I could watch it and take screenshots. So that's what I did because I really liked the end result and I really didn't want to toss it. So it's basically, I created a slatted pumpkin. When Brenda did hers, she actually had a pumpkin that was already in slats. I did a faux slat, I guess you would call it. And I just took various materials to make the slats. I used a piece of tape so that each slat was a uniform width. I used different materials. The aqua blue is from a placemat. The 2 black and white ones are from Dollar Tree vinyl. And then you have that together placemat on top. And I just used either a pair of scissors or a utility knife to cut it to shape or to cut it to size. I used some Dollar Tree ribbon for the bow. And then I took some wood glue and hot glue on this other Dollar Tree sign. And I adhered the two together, and there you have it. And I'll give you a better look at the final reveal. So this is their version, and my project number 1 is my version, and I call them scrap lumber pumpkin shelf sitters. 3 scraps of lumber, and mine are probably bigger than the Wayfair one, but it's what I had. And what I didn't have is an orange I liked to paint my pumpkins, so I played around with some chalk paint and acrylic paint until I was happy with what I saw. And then I went ahead and did front, back, and sides of all 3 pieces and helped them along in the drawing process. Now I toyed with the idea of putting paper on these like in the original, but I didn't have any paper that had like an orange plaid. I had green plaid, blue plaid, pink plaid, but no orangey plaid. So I just decided to, have some fun and do polka dots, lines, and like little chevron lines on the 3rd one. So there's my little polka dot one all done. And then there wasn't any rhyme or reason to the width of the stripes. I just made them even. Like once I decided on one, I made sure that the rest of them were the same. I think it was like two strands of tape in between. And then it was like, oh my gosh, I was going to do wavy lines on this one, and I wasn't sure how that would look. I felt like I needed like an in-between, something in between lines and dots. So I decided on this chevron shape. And I think I'm using a broken foam paintbrush. Probably like, I get them at the Habitat for Humanity store sometimes, and the Dollar Tree sometimes, but looks like it broke off the stick, and I'm just using it as a sponge, and it's working fine. And I actually set these aside to dry and don't get to them until the next day. And the paint was a little cracked because maybe it was too thick. Not a lot, and I decided to just go with it. In the meantime, with the painting set aside, I went ahead and cut 3 pumpkin stems out of this square dowel, and I just chose a length. I think it was like 2 inches or 2 1/4 inches. I just happened to have this dowel. I saw it at the Habitat for Humanity store one time, and I had all these round dowels but never square dowels, so I thought these were pretty cool. And it's a whole 50 cents for that like whole big long thing you saw. And again, I didn't like the brown I had, so I put 2 browns together. And sometimes I don't even bother mixing it because, you know, it's sort of like an organic, natural look, because in nature the colors aren't flat and one-dimensional, so I tried to make it a little bit more natural. These are paint sticks. I think they're 14-inch paint sticks. You can get the 21-inch ones. Those are larger ones, and you can use either one. It's the tags. It's the word tags that's going to hang off of the stem, and it's pretty cool. I just did the typewriter font in Cricut, and when the paint sticks were dry, I cut them to size with a utility knife, and I made sure to leave some space at the beginning of the word so I could drill a hole to hang them off the pumpkin stem. This is like my favorite part. The word signs, the word tags are my favorite part of this whole project. I just think they're so cool. And it was really easy to with the Dollar Tree twine that I had, because it's really thin. And I just did a lark's head knot, or a loop knot, I guess. I do that. I do it the exact same for all 3 of them. And now I finally got to unwrapping this pumpkin, and I was pretty happy with how it came out. I decided not to fuss too much with where it did bleed through. I just kind of softened it with the sandpaper you saw there. But I decided not to bother painting in anything. And the same with the chevron. And it's not perfect. You can see the lines aren't totally parallel, but I think that's the whole fun of it. I decided to make mine more whimsical than the Waverly version. And it's not an excuse for not doing it right or perfect. It's just to make it fun and not obsess over perfection and details. Okay, so I used wood glue, hot glue, got those stems on there, and then you see I have the little curly cues. I guess I made those off camera. And I also dabbed some of that copper paint on them. And I decided on the gold leaves instead of the gold flowers. The original has gold leaves, just different shape, like with pointed edges. And I tried cutting these, but it made them too small, so I decided to leave them the natural size. And then just a whole lot of twine wrapped around the pumpkin stem, because The original had a whole lot of twine wrapped around it. See, I'm trying to get a little bit close to the original. All right, once I wrapped it, I hot glued it on the back. And that's how the first one is done. There's the tag on it, thankful. And I'll show you all three together during the final reveal. Okay, so I just wanted to give you an update on my lovely lumber pumpkins. They sat out front all last fall season, and then I just kept them in the garage over the winter, spring, and summer. And when I put them back out, as soon as I handled them, all the pumpkin stems just sort of came off. So we're going to fix that. First, I'm going to wipe down the pumpkins and the little word tags with just a baby wipe. And the word blessed has black on it, which I'm assuming is mold. And the baby wipe wouldn't get rid of it. So I just came in with my white paint. This is a new paint that I'm trying. Charlene from the Crafty Art Shack recommends it. It's Rust-Oleum Linen White. And then instead of relying just on glue to hold the pumpkin stem on the pumpkin, I chose to drill a hole on the bottom of the pumpkin stem and the top of the pumpkin, and then push a skewer down into the pumpkin. And I'm just kind of guessing the height of the skewer. So after I do the hole, I push the stem down, make sure it fits snugly against the top of the pumpkin. And then I take it off and come back with a little bit of glue, and then push the stem back down. See, there I am with a little bit of glue. This way we've got a double hold. Last time I used the wood glue and hot glue. This time I'm using the skewer and some wood glue. And you'll notice I did paint the top of the pumpkin, and I kind of wonder if that's maybe why the glue didn't hold as well as I had hoped. But here you have it. There's my scrap lumber pumpkins, and I'm going to use that Krylon spray. It's good for indoor, outdoor, and it's not supposed to let it yellow. I sprayed the word. I wanted to make sure I got a good coat, and then came back and sprayed the pumpkins, and there you have them, my scrap lumber pumpkins.